As you can see from the reaction of the folks around me and in the neighborhood, this is a day that we have been waiting for. No homeowner in this city should have to look at houses like this. And no child in this city should grow up surrounded by this type of blight. Mayors and city council, going back to Jerry Kavanaugh in 1965, have promised they were going to get rid of the scourge of abandoned houses in Detroit. And we feel like we've waited long enough. We're halfway done with the job. We've taken down 19,000 abandoned houses in the last 5 years. We got 19,000 to go. We're not under any illusion about how hard it's going to be, but today we're proposing a plan to get every vacant house out of every neighborhood. So if you're in a neighborhood and you think that you've been forgotten, you have not. This proposal is going to get every abandoned house out of your block if we can get it past the ballot in March of 2020.
It will happen.
We're not just talking about demolition. We have a lot of houses in this city that are vacant and can be saved. And in the last 5 years, we've had 9,000 abandoned houses that have been renovated or have been sold to people who are renovating them. And we've got 8,000 more that we believe can be renovated. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to come through neighborhoods like this one, and this is so typical of the city. You've got houses over here that clearly need to come down. You got houses across the street that are beautiful. The folks have been maintaining them. And we need now to say to the folks who stayed, we want you to be happy you stayed. We're going to be on your side, right? All right. So we have submitted to City Council a plan to go to the voters for a $250 million bond proposal to eliminate every abandoned house from every neighborhood. And council will be acting on it in the coming weeks. I will always be grateful to the federal government who funded us $265 million in demolition. U.S. Treasury Department has been great partners. Senator Debbie Stabenow, who led the funding fight, it's been enormous. They have brought us to where we are, which is the job half done. But now, there isn't any more federal money. There's no more state money. If we're going to do this, we're going to have to do this on our own. And the good news is that the city's finances are so strong and our credit rating has improved to the point that we can sell this bond issue with no increase in taxes. All right? And so we are levying 9 mills in debt today. Because debt is getting paid off ahead of time, we're going to be able to sell the new bonds and your taxes will not go up. We're going to take that bond issue money and add it to the money we committed in the plan of adjustment. We committed that $50 million a year will be used for blight overall, $30 million for taking down houses. We're going to ask council to accelerate $50 million of that until this year so we can keep this going until the voters get a chance to act on this in March and we get a chance to sell the bonds, because we can't wait on these demolitions, and we will be sending that full pack. Now, as everybody knows, as appreciative as we are of the federal funding came with a lot of restrictions. And one of the restrictions was boundaries within which we had to operate. And if it was not a neighborhood that was 70% or more occupied, we could not use the federal money for demolition. That was their rule. I understood the rule. We accepted the money on that rule. But you look at a neighborhood like this, this neighborhood wouldn't have qualified for the federal funds. When we go to city funding, we will be able to take down every house in every neighborhood, and this is going to allow us to get into this area. The other restriction on federal funding that was somewhat frustrating to us is the federal government, when they supply you with those funds, treat them as funds of all taxpayers across the country and do not allow you to use local preferences in your bidding. Because I would like Detroit companies to be knocking down these houses and rebuilding Detroit neighborhoods. So if you look at what's happened, about 37% of the federal money went to Detroit-owned firms and minority-owned firms, but the demolitions that were done by the city contracting process went 50% to minority-owned firms and 54% to Detroit-owned firms. So we are going to rebuild these neighborhoods with Detroit companies because we're moving it back to city procurement, something we've been wanting to do for quite a long time. Probably the thing that most frustrated me about the federal rules was that they required you to operate through a separate authority like a land bank. They didn't allow you to use the city procurement department, and that led us to a lot of the difficulties that we've since worked out. So here's where we are today. We have submitted this proposal to City Council. They need to act by early December to place the issue on the ballot. We go to the voters in March of 2020. If the voters approve the bond issue, are we going to go out and campaign for it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So if the voters approve the bond issue in March, we will go over before the end of spring, sell the bonds, and you will see us by the middle of 2025 do 19,000 demolitions, 8,000 renovations, with the goal of removing every bit of blight from our neighborhoods. That's what we're doing today, and my colleagues on City Council are well aware of the fact that for a half a century, City Council members have been saying, we're going to get your abandoned houses, and we never quite get the job done. Now we've got leadership on council that is going to drive this, and let me introduce the council member from this district, my partner, Andre Spivey.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're having announcement of District 4, seems like every single month, and we're glad for this announcement today is indeed transformative for our entire city. We hear all too often how the attention is given to our neighborhoods. Well, this will begin to our neighborhoods. There are many neighborhoods like this right here at Queen and Hazel Ridge all across the city of Detroit, and we want you to know we've not forgotten about you. This is an opportunity to rebuild our neighborhoods. For me, it's a win-win. We can tear down homes and we can provide employment. Tearing down homes, and my colleague behind me, Scott Benson, chairs the Public Health and Safety Committee. He also hears dangerous buildings. People come every single week with abandoned homes in their neighborhoods, and we do as much as we can with the restrictions we have with our HHF funds. But now we can cast a wider net, go into more neighborhoods to make sure we tear down homes. We cannot have children walking to school every day, walking past abandoned homes when it's light or even dark in the morning. We can't have our senior citizens walking down the street. For that fact, no one should be able to live in a neighborhood where they're afraid to walk down their street, and there are a plethora of neighborhoods that have these homes. So this is a chance to do that. Secondly, I'm happy because we can provide employment. As the mayor just said, we must make sure we keep our residents employed. This will provide an opportunity to build the capacity of our smaller demolition companies, bring on new companies who will hire Detroiters. Our first priority should be to have Detroit contractors, people of color, minority, whatever you want to call it, those who are in Detroit, make sure they have contracts. They're hiring those who are in Detroit who can remain and live here in our city. These folk behind me here have been waiting a very long time. And I know they're happy, and I hope those who are watching, they will be happy indeed. And we must do our part as the council, if we decide to do so, do our due diligence, approve this and get it on the ballot, and at that time, go around to our city residents, let them know how important this is. Again, this is transformative to change our city and begin the furtherance of our city coming back where it really needs to be. And so I can't do one of my partners who's our neighbor to the west, District 3. Love him dearly, works very hard, extremely hard. Please present and be welcome to receive our Councilman Scott Benson from District 3. Hear him as he comes.
Thank you, Member Spivey and the Mayor, and to all the community residents who are out here today, who are here to help us join in the fight to further eliminate blight and improve our neighborhoods within the city of Detroit and our individual districts. And so for me, this is transformative, number one, because we have a triple bottom line plan here. Number one, we're going to continue to tear down homes in our neighborhoods. Number two, we are going to continue to improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods by helping to eliminate that blight. And then number three, we're going to make sure that we put our residents first when it comes in line for these jobs, and we prioritize our own people to take advantage of this uplifting and this money that's going to be coming into the city of Detroit to do demolition. Can I get an amen on that? And so, as Member Spivey indicated, as the chair of the Public Health and Safety Standing Committee, we do hear dangerous buildings. So every home that gets demolished in the city of Detroit comes across our table. Now, this is going to mean more work for us, but I'm okay with that. And I just want to make sure that the residents behind me are okay with that heavy level of work as well. Are you going to support me in that? That's right. And so I want to make sure that we also recognize the heavy lift that has to be done by the residents of the city of Detroit. And so I brought a couple residents with me today because these are the warriors. And so when we go to battle on issues and initiatives, these are the ones that help make sure that we and I win. So number one, I want to recognize Mr. Marvis Cofield from Akibalon Village, as well as Diane Allen, our Board of Review resident from the 3rd District.
All right. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. As we all understand it, rebuilding our neighborhood. This is a fight against blight, one brick, one building, one block at a time. We want our neighborhood. We need youth development, business development, and community development. As you look behind this area, I guarantee this is our fight, but we can't do it by ourselves. We need a village. So can we do it, you all? Can we do it? Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Diane Allen, and like Councilman Spivey said, we've been working for a long time to bring our city back. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Detroit. I've lived in District 3 since 1963. I was president of the East Outer Drive Block Club. I was on the committee to save Lipke Recreation Center. I am a member of the We Care About 7 Mile Van Dyke area. I'm a member of the NED group, which is Restore Northeast Detroit. About a month ago, the mayor had one of his community parties in our neighborhood, and he and I had a conversation about bringing our neighborhoods back. I'm glad it hasn't taken years, but just a month for things to start to move, okay? Every place I go in the community, I hear the same thing. It is beautiful from Jefferson to the Boulevard, but what about our neighborhoods, okay? So now, neighbors, we are here. When it's time to vote, vote. When it's time to go to community organizations, go to your community organizations, talk to your elected officials. Let's bring Detroit back. Thank you very much.
All right, Diane.
So we want to thank our residents from District 4 and 3 that are standing behind us. These are the typical Detroiters who've stayed here, who love their community, and who want to see a better Detroit, not tomorrow, but today. And we are here, and we have one of our most spirited and vocal residents here in District 3 who lives on Cedar Grove. She's known as Miss Kim. I want to bring forth Miss Kimberly Marble. Won't you come, Kim?
We have to give God the praise on this because he has touched each and every one of the mayor and everyone else to come here and take a moment to look at what's going on here. I have been living on Cedar Grove with my mom since I was 15. I'm not going to tell you my correct age, but I'm over half of a century. So I've seen it when it was good. I've seen it when it was coming down. I see it now that it is bad. I am glad that they are taking an interest in our neighborhoods. I'm not going nowhere, and you will see me again. I want to say this to all of the neighbors that are over here. Each one teach one. Right. Reach back and get one. That's 3 people going in the same direction. So everybody that is right here, Ms. Kim said, each one teach one, reach back and get one. Okay, that's 3 people. I'm thankful. I'm happy. I am now a new grandmother. I want my grandson to have a backyard, to have a fence. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of things. And all of you that are here, once these get torn down, especially the ones that's right at me, I'm going to fence them off. I'm going to prepare a meal because I am a caterer. And I want y'all all come and eat bread with me. Okay? I am Miss Kim Sweets and Treats. I love everybody. Hugs is what I do. I do it at my job. I did it right here, And I will continue to do that because a hug don't hurt nobody. We must be a village. That's when I came up. A village. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a neighborhood. It takes a village to pick a sister up when she down and help her stand up. It takes a village to help that brother, man, get where he got to go. All I'm saying is we all need to be a village for all of our neighborhoods, not just this one, all of them. If we all stick together, remember each one, teach one. Go back and get one. My name is Miss Kim. I love you all.
So I think we can announce today Ms. Kim is going to be the campaign manager for the ballot issue in March. All right? All right. We got our spokesperson. I want to introduce a few people, and then I'll take questions. Our planning director, Arthur Jemison. Arthur, raise your hand. He's going to help plan what we do once we get rid of all these houses. We got to have plans for what we do with the land. And Arthur Jemison's going to lead that. Saskia Thompson is in the back. She is the happiest woman in the entire place. She heads the land bank, and in a few months, the land bank will not be in the demolition business anymore. The demolitions will have moved 100% to the city of Detroit. We're down under 1,000 federal demolitions being done. They've done a great job. The last 3 years have just been running these demolitions like clockwork. But I know you'll be glad when you can talk about how we reuse the land instead of knocking things down. Right. And finally, our Chief Financial Officer, Dave Masseron, who promises me there'll be no trouble selling these bonds on Wall Street and that nobody's taxes will be raised. So that's the team, and with that, do you like that? With that, we'll take any questions. Yeah. You know, it's tough. And again, we had $265 million we would have never had. But I could write a book on dealing with the regulations, and the contractors who aren't used to being in government, it may have been even more challenging. But think about this. You had the U.S. Treasury rules. You had the Federal Inspector General, SIGTARP, coming through with their version of the rules. You had MSHDA, the State Housing Authority. You had the State DEQ. You had the City of Detroit Land Bank. And you had the City Building Safety Inspection Department. At any given time, any one of those 6 agencies could be telling you a different way to do what you're doing. And so our contractors, there's no doubt, have been frustrated. We've been meeting with them and said, look, when we get this funding, you're going to know in the next 5 years, here's how much there is to be spent. We've already started having meetings on how the city procurement process would work. It will be much more predictable, and I believe it'll cause the cost to come down when it becomes more predictable. So our reaction preliminarily from the contractors has been very positive. Obviously, the proof will be when we execute, but I think we're going in the right direction.
What about the situation when we end up with a bunch of blank slates? Arthur Jemison will be charged with the responsibility.
Right.
What do we do? What are some of the options?
So those are interesting things. So far, we've been knocking mostly in neighborhoods 70% or more occupied, and we've sold 13,000 side lots. Because when the neighbor is mostly occupied, there's a neighbor next door who gladly pays $100. Now, what do you do when you have all this land? Do we create a big park? Does it become a water retention area to help keep flooding out of basements? Are there some other things to do? We're going to plan that neighborhood by neighborhood. And Arthur, I don't know if you'd like to come up and talk a little bit, but we're going to plan it with you. We aren't coming in with all the answers. We're just telling you we're going to consult with you in the process.
With community.
All right. So you're going to get to know Arthur well.
All right.
Yes. So it's a great question. So right now the federal rules require us to use it for demolition. So I went up to the Department of Treasury in D.C. I sat with everybody up to the cabinet secretary, and I said, look, if it costs us $20,000 to knock a house down, but if I give somebody a $20,000 subsidy, they'll renovate it, can't we have the option to renovate and keep these houses up? And they said, no, it's not under the federal rules. So we took those houses that could be renovated and we set them aside. With this plan, we are going to be able to use the money for renovation as well as demolition. And I think there'll be about 1,000 houses where we can put a subsidy in that will probably move it from demolition to rehab. We think we got another 7,000 that'll get rehabbed anyway, but we're going to be able to go through and assess. And if we get a house that for $15,000 or $20,000 subsidy can be rehabbed, we're going to rehab it and save that house and move a family in. And that's what we're going to be allowed to do for the first time under these rules. Yes. Yeah. So SIGTARP is looking at a lot of things. What I would say is this. 3 years ago, we sat down with the federal and state government, and they had suspended our money in the summer of 16, appropriately so. We put a new process in place, and since then, the feds have released $175 million, which has flowed like clockwork for the last 3 years. So I think Treasury has confidence in what we're doing, and I think we feel good about what we're doing, and they'll continue to do whatever they're doing. But I think the fact that the feds have released another $175 million indicates the confidence that they have. And I got to tell you, as I talk to people in the neighborhoods, I don't hear what about SIGTARP. I hear, when are you going to get that house down, right? And so I think the people in this city are going to be strongly behind what we're doing. But I also feel like for the last 3 years, we've done a much better job in the way it's been done. Yes? Well, let me see if I can deal with each one of the inaccurate statements in order. Right. I mean, this is the complete disconnect between what we hear and what everybody knows in the neighborhood. Here's what people in the neighborhood know. 250,000 people moved out of the city of Detroit between 2000 and 2013. They didn't move out because of tax foreclosures. 250,000 people moved out and did not take their houses with them and left us with that amount of property. Now, we did have, and we still have, a significant foreclosure issue. I think my first year there were 6,000 occupied houses got foreclosed on. This year, Eric Sabri says it's under 500. We went to Lansing, we changed legislation, we put in payment plans, and we've done a number of things. Anybody who's in one of these houses, the land banks initiated a buyback program. We've had hundreds of people who have bought the houses they were staying in. We're going to keep doing those kinds of things, and I think, again, the people in the neighborhoods, they know what's going on in the houses in their neighborhood. They know the kind of efforts that we're making. Again, number one, I don't believe those statements are accurate, but we are looking at a fair way to deal with those issues. At the same time, you got a whole lot of people who went on payment plans and paid their taxes. And so, sure, you go right ahead.
Okay. Again, my name is Diane Allen, and I'm the representative on the Board of Review for the 3rd District. Last week, at a meeting of the Board of Review, we were informed that this year already, we have exempted more than 5,300 residents. So we are working diligently. We are working diligently to keep our people in their homes. Okay? So that's what's happening in the neighborhood.
All right. So the folks in the neighborhood know what we're doing. Other questions? Yes, go ahead. All right, we'll be here if anybody else wants to talk. Thank you all very much, and come out and vote in March.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shirley Birch. I'm the 3rd District Police Commissioner. Also, I'm a community leader, been living here all my life. I just want to address the concern of the census that's coming. We know we forgot to say anything about that these homes that are going to be built to refurbish our neighborhoods, we got to have people to come to live here. So by Diane and myself being advocates to pump up the neighborhoods. That's what we need to do. And one thing I want to say, we can change Detroit neighborhoods from horrific to terrific. Show them the sign, please. This is what you need to put in your neighborhood. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.